Hey, I know you know, and I want to talk to you about this, the Supreme Court leakage with Roe versus Wade. What are your thoughts on this?
It's just troubling. I was shocked when I saw it all come out. It's concerning on a lot of levels. I think distrust in general in our country is so high right now, and it seemed like the Supreme Court was the one area that was kind of immune from that, and um, and remains somewhat free from the politicalization. Obviously, whenever there's appointees and stuff, that stuff all comes out, but there was like this integrity that people still had associated with the Supreme Court, and this leak, I think, shakes a lot of that. I mean, it's unprecedented. We've never seen this happen before. And I worry not only for the effect externally in our country and how this will affect things going forward for the justices, but I also worry like internally within the court and within the justices themselves. How does this rattle confidence within each other and trust within each other, and the ramifications going forward? I don't even know if it matters how much, how it happened, but just the sheer fact that it did is a serious cause for concern. And then obviously there's the ramifications of the ruling and so forth, which I don't think there's a more difficult topic to unpack that faces us in any capacity than abortion rights. I mean, it is so multifaceted and layered, and it's an emotional one. It's a difficult one. I think it's a moral one, and I think there's like the moral argument, the legal argument. So I think it's an incredibly polarizing and really, really, really difficult conversation and topic to tackle. So the fact that the leak happened in regards to this ruling, it seems a bit intentional, but I think it makes it even more detrimental to kind of the foundations of the court and the integrity of the court and the perception of it within our society.
Do you think it was I mean, it obviously was intentional. You don't leak anything that you don't want leaked. Do you think there was a bigger plan here? Packing the court has been mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I don't like to jump to conclusions, but it's hard not to hear. I mean, there has to be a reason, right? You don't do something of this magnitude without a plan or an intent or a purpose. I mean, no leak is by accident, right? I mean, well, very rarely, unless there's like a hacking or something. Um, so it does seem intentional. It does seem like there is, an agenda to be pushed by achieving this. And it's alarming. It's like I just it's so much bigger than anything I can kind of wrap my mind around. And yeah, we'll see what like the long-term consequences and ramifications of it are, but there's going to be some. And just the response it's ignited throughout our country. I mean, you wonder how much that was part of it to potentially get out in front of it and change the final ruling before it comes out. It's hard to know why it happened, but it's easy to see how big of an impact it's having.
I have a friend who fills in as a judge, at a very local level, not the Supreme Court. And I asked him, I go, well, this has obviously never happened. And his answer was, well, it just can't happen. It's just
Right.
one of those things where the answer is simply this cannot happen. This cuts to the fiber of basically our judicial system if this is what's going to happen. What do you think? And again, this is jumping to conclusions, but what do you think will ultimately be found here? Like, you think this is just some person that did this, a group? I mean, what do you think ultimately happens here?
I think I don't know. I don't know. There has to
Yeah,
be
it's
something
a
major at play, right? Like this is big. Like he said, like this doesn't happen. This can't happen. This should never happen. So for it to, I don't know if we'll ever know the real reason or how, because I think it's that big. Like I think it's that deep and it's that big. And perhaps if we found out who or why or how, it could be even more explosive and detrimental, to really, like I said, like these pillars that have upheld our Constitution, and I think the faith that we have in our government. This is like, yeah, I wonder if we ever really will know what happened, because if it is as big as it seems it would be for this to happen, the consequences would be huge, and I think alter our country permanently.
Last thing before I get off this topic, the issue itself, like, you know, Roe versus Wade, I remember the day it happened. I don't know how old I was. Maybe I was 10. I think it happened in like 72 or something like that. Is in your mind what was leaked a declaration that this court will overturn this, or is it far, far, far more nuanced than that?
It sounds like it. It sounds like it will return it to the state level, which I think the estimations are like 26 states would then ban abortion in some capacity. Obviously, we've seen kind of what's happened in Texas and now here Oklahoma more recently. So I think it would definitely change the way states handle it, and that's the key. But here's the thing: like, if you listen to some really smart people who are a lot smarter than me about the constitutional grounds on which it was ruled, it's pretty shaky ground. It kind of hinges on this right to privacy. And so it's very interesting that it did pass back in the 70s and it's held this long, because it's not on very strong footing from like an argument constitutionally wise. So that to me has always been interesting. And I think we've always kind of known that. And maybe that's why, like, as feminists and women's rights activists, that like Roe v. Wade was never far from our minds. And anytime a Supreme Court justice is appointed, they're asked about how they feel, you know, about that topic and about that case. And I think that that's the reason, is like people have known for decades that it was on shaky ground from a legal constitutional standpoint. And that's what this draft ruling was essentially kind of saying. So then it would go back to the states, and that would have far-reaching consequences for a lot of people in a lot of parts of the country. And you know, the timing is interesting, the midterms coming up and all that. So this has always been like that one part of the Republican Party that I feel like they lose a lot of voters on, that they maybe would have, is like the pro-life, pro-choice debate. And so, yeah, it's such a complicated issue, again, because to me, there's two things here. There's the moral argument about abortion, and then there's the legal argument about abortion. And this, you know, this is about the legal side, and this is about federally what can be guaranteed and then what cannot be. And like I said, if you really get into the weeds on the Roe v. Wade stuff, and people have done it that are way smarter than I, so I'm not going to try and do that, but it's out there. But it isn't on the strongest of footing. And I think that's why we saw the draft opinion that we did.